Superheroes are often judged by their strength, popularity, or powers. But Spider Man stands out because he is a lot more relatable to a lot of people than most heroes. Behind his mask is an ordinary person who struggles with loss, school, relationships, and everyday responsibilities while still choosing to be a superhero. Spider Man is therefore the best superhero because his relatability, his strong sense of responsibility, and his perseverance make him a hero that people can truly connect with. Today, I'm going to persuade you to judge superheroes based off of their qualities that make them true heroes rather than simply by their powers or popularity. And I'm going to show why Spider Man is the best example of that. So, first, I want to talk about his relatability and how him being an ordinary teenager and struggling with regular things such as financial struggles and just being overall a imperfect human makes him so relatable. Of course, we struggle with things on the ordinary every day. We struggle to wake up, we struggle with basic decisions, we struggle with larger decisions, and all of that in his storytelling is applied in the form of fighting villains and balancing those villain fights with struggles and being injured and all that. And despite all of those things, he's still able to get up and do the right thing and use his powers for good. And that sets a very good example for what a superhero should be, because it's not always about the powers that you have, it's about what you do with the powers that you have. And Spider-Man is a great example of that. And so in a study done by the North Carolina State University, um, most of the stories that are portrayed by Peter Parker or by Spider-Man are based on real events, and that storytelling was just applied into a fictional world. And so those real events can be something that the author of whatever comic strip or movie experienced themselves, such as financial struggles, or just the struggles of being an ordinary person, or just the basic human imperfection that I talked about. And so you are able to relate to all of these things, and therefore the character should resonate with you the best. And because of that, he makes a great example for what a good and also what the best superhero should be. Next, I want to talk about his moral responsibilities and how the whole with great power comes great responsibility applies to this particular idea. And so with him, of course, he has these powers, and if he used them poorly, obviously he could do some very bad things because he's very strong, he's very quick, he's very agile, and he can do a lot of really bad things with them. But he instead uses his powers to do fun things like web swing and to get from point A to point B as fast as possible so he can help people, and that requires a lot of personal sacrifice, which speaks and is a testament to his character and how, although he has strong powers, he still manages to use them for good. And according to an article done by ResearchGate, the connection between the way he uses his powers and his personal responsibilities makes him such a good hero because he's able to balance the two and still do really good things and make saving lives and saving people and just helping people in general so much more attainable, especially with all the things that he struggles with. And of course, that applies to our lives as well. We struggle with things every day, but we persevere nonetheless, and we're able to still achieve what we want to do. In Peter Parker or Spider-Man's case, he's still able to help people despite all the things that he struggles with. And so that idea of his powers versus his character, and how although he has these powers, what speaks more about him as a person and as a character and why he is the best superhero, in my opinion, is that he is still able to do good with his powers, and that speaks more about his character than it does about his powers. And that's not something that a lot of superheroes are in their storytelling get emphasized as much as Peter Parker or as much as Spider-Man, and that's why he's so popular to this day. And so according to Matthew Labracy, according to an article written by Matthew Labracy, a lot of the storytelling that is done with Spider-Man is they emphasize that he is just an ordinary person, and despite him being ordinary, he is still able to apply his powers and use them for good things, which thereof makes him a good character because he chooses to do the right thing. Despite having powers that he could choose to do bad with, he does good with. And despite being so ordinary and despite being this regular person that you can relate to a lot, he still does good with them. And that's something that, again, applies to us, and that's why that makes him one of the best and most relatable characters, and an example worth judging whether or not he is a good or bad hero. Of course, in this instance, I'm arguing that he is the best hero. And so for my final point, I'm really going to emphasize that idea of perseverance and how In all of his stories, he experiences loss the same way we do every day. He experiences failure the same way we do every day. And he experiences a lot of hardship that requires him to keep pushing, get back up, and never give up. And that goes a long way, and that makes a huge difference. And that's something that we can all think about. And so for my second object, I'm going to be using a little Lego. Despite the size of this Lego from afar, this Lego is Spider-Man, and this Lego is still able to make a huge difference because the character that this Lego embraces, which is Spider-Man, does good with the powers that he uses. And despite the fact that he experiences loss and failure and never gives up, he is still able to persevere. And that's something that we can all relate to on a daily basis. No one wins 100% of the time. No one succeeds 100% of the time. And that is really emphasized in the storytelling of Peter Parker or Spider-Man. And it's something that we can all relate to. And because we can relate to it so much, and because we find so much connection within his storytelling, that makes him the best superhero to both relate to and also to judge on whether or not he is the best or worst. In my case, I think he's the best. And so according to an article written by Fizzy Art Journal, the internal conflicts that he experiences and the guilt that he experiences and the personal doubts that he experiences and all the emotions that he gets to experience, all those things that he experiences are things that make him so relatable. And despite him being one person, he's able to make such a big difference. And so are you. And you relate to that. And therefore, he's the best superhero because you can apply all of those things that he does to yourself. And so, of course, Spider-Man being a hero is not about him having the strongest powers or being perfect. It's about his relatability, his sense of responsibility, and his perseverance. And that makes him stand out from other heroes despite the challenges he faces. So Spider-Man continues to help others, and it makes him not only a great superhero, but the best superhero and a great example of judging whether or not he is the best.